We'll do it on that Monday or? crying like a little baby.
I've got a weird resistance to it, and they have to hit me like right on the curb. I'm up for like 6 hours. They're painful until they're not, until you no longer have a nerve.
This will seem like after that root canal, this will seem like I have one. I have two. It was like real close. You guys good to go? Everybody's good to go? Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the City of Palm Coast City Council business meeting. Today is Tuesday, July 21st, 2026. It's 9 a.m. We're in the John Netz Community Wing of City Hall. I'm calling this meeting to order. If you could, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a short moment of silence.
Mr. Mayor, before we start, could I just ask that we keep our fallen heroes that died this past week in our prayers, and also the almost 100 service members that have also been injured throughout this last week. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have devices, please silence them at this time. Ms. Cook, could you please call the roll?
Mayor Norris.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Present.
Councilmember Gambaro.
Here.
Councilmember Miller.
Here.
Councilmember Sullivan.
Here.
All members are present.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on to item D, proclamations. We have one proclamation today, and that's the proclamation August 2026 as Water Quality Month. Pete, Brian, you guys are going to come up for this one? Get the crew up here, please. Come up to the rail and face about, face the audience.
Morning.
Morning, guys. City Manager, if you please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Proclamation Water Quality Month. Whereas clean, safe water is essential to the health, safety, and quality of life of our residents, businesses, wildlife, and natural environment. And whereas the United States Congress enacted the Clean Water Act of 1972 and the Safe Drinking Water Act of 1974 to protect the nation's water resources, safeguard public health, and preserve clean drinking water for current and future generations. And whereas the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency recognizes August as National Water Quality Month to encourage communities to raise awareness about the importance of protecting and conserving our water resources through education, stewardship, and responsible environmental practices. And whereas the City of Palm Coast remains committed to providing safe, reliable drinking water and protecting the environment through the operation of 3 water treatment plants and 2 wastewater treatment plants, while continuing to invest in critical infrastructure that supports the community's future. And whereas protecting water quality is a shared responsibility, and every resident, business, school, and community partner plays an important role by conserving water, properly disposing of household chemicals, reducing pollution, and helping preserve our waterways for generations to come. Now therefore, be it proclaimed by the Mayor and City Council of the City of Palm Coast, Florida, that the month of August 2026 be officially designated Water Quality Month, encouraging all residents to recognize the importance of clean water, practice responsible stewardship of our natural resources, and support ongoing efforts to protect and enhance the quality of Palm Coast water for the benefit of our community today and for generations to come. Signed this 21st day of July, 2026, Michael Norris, Mayor.
Let's get a picture and then we'll give you the podium real quick. Thank you. Yes, sir, you got it.
I'm going to turn the podium on for a quick read that Pete, with over 30 years dedicated to serve water quality here, I think it's appropriate for him. He's got a few words he can add.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. Just a few words. Water is used every day for a variety of reasons: drinking, household use, recreation, irrigation, transportation, manufacturing, just to name a few. But try to imagine what it would be like without easy access to clean and plentiful water. There would be no fountains to quench our thirst when you are on a hot day, no more pools, no more lakes or rivers clean enough for recreational activities, and no more long hot showers. National Water Quality Month reminds us to take a moment to consider how important water is to humans and other inhabitants of this planet. Fortunately for us, there is still time and plenty of ways to keep our water clean, all of which starts with some being mindful of the possible effects our activities might have on our environment. Just to mention a few, don't flush unwanted or out-of-date medications down the toilet or put them down the drain. Not putting anything but water down storm drains because they carry water to local waterways. Pick up after your pet. Animal waste are full of nitrogen, which can remove oxygen from water, leaving it completely unusable for aquatic life. And don't use fertilizer with a lot of phosphorus. After heavy rainfall or watering, these chemicals can leak into nearby waterway sources. So together, we can all make an impact. By incorporating any of this that I just mentioned, of the following actions into our life, we can rest easy knowing that we're all helping to ensure that clean drinking water is readily available for everyone for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You got a follow-up, Brian?
Yeah, I just appreciate Pete and the team. They work very hard. And we have very sophisticated plants here with various different water sources. The folks have done good with training people who operate our plants. They also operate some very big plants in the region that people have spurred off here. So Palm Coast has done a great job for decades on treating very complex water from various different sources here. I want to appreciate the team there. I'm fortunate to have been working with them for the last year.
Thank you, sir. Any follow-ups from the council? Nope, no follow-up from the council. All right, thank you so much, Brian, Pete. Okay, we're going to move on to public participation. Item E, we'll allot 30 minutes for this period. If you have any public comments concerning items that are not on the agenda, please come forward.
Jeannie Duarte. In 2011, an amendment went to the primary ballot to change election years from odd years to even years. It never appeared on a required general election ballot. As a result, the 2013 election was skipped. In 2018, the mayor and council appointed themselves as the Charter Review Committee. They placed 3 amendments on our ballot that not only managed to replace our charter in its entirety, but they made several changes to our charter that were never brought to the vote of the electors. In 2024, our current vice mayor and former councilman Danko placed an amendment on our ballot in attempt to remove provision 3E. They did so without the required charter review process. There were 2 Amendment 1s that year, one for state and one for city. We managed to vote down the city's amendment. Had they achieved, they would have removed our rights to vote on issues by referendum, removed the spending cap, removed the 36-month repayment deadline, and remove the restrictions the city has on entering into lease purchase contracts or any other unfunded multi-year contracts that exceed the limit. Now, in 2026, we are looking at 2 Amendment 3s, one for state, where many are considering a yes vote for their homestead tax. The other is for the city, once again targeting provision 3E. 2, change the 36-month repayment deadline to 30 years, and to change the spending cap from $15 million to $30 million with an annual inflation increase. This will severely reduce or eliminate voter participation and will allow uncontrolled phased spending with no accountability. As for your Amendment 1 and 2, simply refer to the original unaltered version of our charter for proper reading. It is the only enforceable version, though all versions still state, appointments shall last until the next regularly scheduled election, and the seat shall be declared open and an election held for the remaining 2 years of the term. Shame on you all for allowing seat 4 to still be occupied by a temporary appointment and to allow him to vote. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else for public comment? Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, and staff. My name is Jimmy Hengy. I live in District 2, and I'd like to address the new MPD plan that's being proposed at this time. We're already under contract with an original DRI, which is a development of regional impact, which the determination has been changed to MPD, which is Master Plan Development. In 2010, the original agreement with the developer at the time and the city had stipulations about what the developer would be responsible for. Now with the new MPD, it addresses them differently. A lot of the specific requirements are gone, and here's somewhat of a side-by-side comparison. In 2010, the issue of roads and who pays for them, developers shall build at developer's expense the following road improvements: Hardgrove Grade, Palm Coast Parkway Extension, the Matanzas Woods Parkway Extension, also known as the Loop Road, the railroad overpass, Otis Stone Hunter, US 1 widening, at the time at a cost, estimated cost of approximately $110 million. Now the new MPD by Radiant, those DRIs are to be abandoned and have no further force or effect. Road funding replaced by road dedication framework funded primarily through impact fees and tax increment financing. The proportionate share is likely insufficient and may not be adequate. The Loop Road now is being built with a $126 million state appropriation. As far as parks and recreation, the original DRI has 25 acres of community park, 25 acres community park deeded to the city, 30 acres of neighborhood parks, 45 acres open space, a 10-foot trail system that links connecting homes with parks and shops. Seems like I'm quickly running out of time, but these specifics are not addressed and have not been determined in the new MPD. Schools, Old Brick Road, or Old Brick School, up to 40 acres of pad-ready site. Nagoa Lakes, 115-acre school site that is paired with City Park. No school mitigation agreement in the MPD. Roads, public safety, again, not to be addressed at this time in the MPD. How can something be approved that has these very important unaddressed situations, and how could it even be brought up on the agenda for this council to vote on with no answers? So I thank you. I had more to say, but ran out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Yes, sir. Mr. McDonald.
Morning, Council. Dennis McDonald. I don't know who that gentleman was. I've never met him, but I just wanted to follow up on that. One of the things I've been watching this for 6 months. What's going on with the restatement of the project on the west side of 1 with Rayonier. And of course, you guys all know, and I told you the last time I was here, that Rayonier got essentially bought out by an even bigger company on the West Coast known as Deltic. It's a Potlatch Deltic, I believe. And so we're now dealing with a huge entity, okay? And you guys think you're going to go into this thing, okay, with, I don't know what you're thinking. You're up against a big dog. Here's the point, okay? I've looked through the agendas, okay, I've never seen a time prior to the new city manager being here, and I don't know of it now, where this council and your predecessors brought forward a motion on the floor to have the city manager open negotiations on a contract. You have a contract with Rayonier. Think about that, folks. Okay, you have a contract. They can't get out of it unless you let them out of it. Okay, and the city manager, this city manager and the prior city managers, to the best of my knowledge, never got a motion from you and an action from this board. That's what it takes. This is huge. And you guys are treating this like this is some other rezoning down on Route 1 or something like that. You're way out of your league. You have a contract. You must stay with that contract. And there's a point, okay, since the city manager never asked for a motion to go into a negotiation of that contract, you're nowhere, and so is Rayonier. Let me just touch on one other subject here, is having to do with the city manager. The city manager is completely responsible for our municipal election, because the city clerk works at his pleasure. He appoints them. Okay. The point here is exactly 10 years ago, we had, and factoring out all the personalities involved, we had a situation exactly like we have now. Somebody vacated a seat, okay, that the person that ran to fill that seat won that seat by more than 50%, but he won it in the primary. He was seated the first meeting in September. Now, we have 2 seats up here that are in the exact same position. We've all been holding our breath for a long time, okay? But we need you to follow the precedent, okay? I hope the attorney's listening, okay? The precedent that was set by this city 10 years ago, okay? You gotta follow the rules, okay? And you set a precedent when you did that, and we're gonna do the same thing now, or we're gonna enforce it. One other question I wanted to ask. Can I have a copy of the review that you've done on the new city manager? We have not had a real city manager here since Mr. Morton left, and so could I have a copy of his review for the first 6 months and a copy of the attorney's review? This is customary for both the school board and the county commission. Thank you
sir.
Much. Appreciate
it. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any follow-up, city manager?
Not from me, sir.
Councilman Miller?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. In terms of the question that we require a motion for an applicant to make an application for land use, that's not correct. Any applicant can bring any application at any point and initiate something. It doesn't require a motion by the city council for an applicant to put in an application. In fact, most state laws require that we process those in the appropriate way by state law. In terms of Mr. Henge, you are correct that while comparing the two, right, in terms of the entitlements and what is paid for, so to speak, there is a disparity there, but those are to be handled. The MPD specifically states there's mitigation agreements to come, and my understanding of it, based on the questions I've asked our lawyers as well as outside counsel, is that no permitting or development can occur until we agree to those mitigations. So there's like 5 steps in this process, and we can go forward with some of those steps, and at any point we can kind of stop that on the basis of the mitigation if we don't agree to any of those terms. So we still have a lot of leverage here in terms of trying to get what we need out of this to make it work for us in terms of money, right? And make sure that the current residents aren't paying for things out there. And so that's an ongoing conversation. I think that MPT has probably changed 20 times, since it started. So, I'm committed to making sure that, what I said, that residents in Palm Coast current aren't paying for what's going on out there, that they're protected. And then just to address the charter conversation, I think this has been talked about ad nauseum, but a judge has ruled on it. So legal opinions that conflict with what a judge has ruled on seem to not be correct. So I don't know why we keep talking about it like it is. So that's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. I'll start with the charter issues. So I can't speak for what happened in 2011 or 2018. I don't know. I wasn't here. None of us were. I have asked legal, though, in order to finally kind of get some clarity and hopefully put a period to this conversation on what exactly happened back then, what was put on the ballot, what was voted on, how the changes were made, so that we can provide clarity. That being said, and I'll leave it to legal to answer this question, I think the statute of limitations on these issues is probably long gone, and I don't know what the ultimate end game is in going back to 2011 and 2018. I don't know if anything can be unwound, and quite frankly, the legal possibility of even doing that, I think, is just not plausible. But again, I'll leave it to you, Mr. Blocker, when we get to you here in a minute to answer those questions. What I will say is in 2024, for that amendment, myself and Mr. Danko did not, quote, put anything on the ballot. It took 5 members of this board to vote to put something on a referendum. What happened, for those of us who were actually here, is there was a proposed amendment that I felt did not clearly tell the voters what they were actually voting on. Mr. Danko happened to agree with that. It was one of the few things that we agree on. So we worked on the language to make the language more clear so that the voters knew exactly what the proposed amendment would effectuate. In other words, we made the proposed amendment more clear for the voters. It was not an initiative that either one of us, initially the original amendment, was not an initiative that either one of us spearheaded or proposed. It was something that we wanted to improve so that people actually knew what they were voting on. So factually, I think it's very important to state that. With regards to the MPD and the DRIs, I've made my position on this very clear. Because when I was here 2 years ago and exposed the fact that those DRIs did have all of the infrastructure improvements and obligations that Mr. Henge mentioned, I think I listed many of them out. I made my position very clear that I would not vote to abandon those DRIs until a new master plan development, or MPD, was agreed upon as being sufficient by this council. In its current state, I do not think the MPD is acceptable. I know that the parties are still working on that, but the agenda item today, which was to vote to abandon those DRIs, has been removed from the agenda because, it's my opinion that we're just not ready, and I'm going to address in more detail the comments made by PLDRB at the end of the meeting during council comments, but, PLDRB voted unanimously not to abandon the DRIs, in other words, not to amend the flume and not to amend the zoning for the westward expansion. So clearly, we're just not there yet. So I get the angst in abandoning the DRIs. I've had it for several years now. The voters can be assured that I will not vote to get rid of those DRIs until the current MPD is satisfactory as far as what it provides for infrastructure, concurrency, impact fees, all of those things. So as we move forward in that direction, if anybody has any questions about the DRIs or the proposed MPD, I welcome them because I've been elbow deep in it for a few years now.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Sullivan?
Nothing right now. I'm not planning to leave anytime soon, and I'm going to leave at the end of the term that I was appointed to. And I might say that the same thing happened to me the second time I ran for a county commission. There was no. I won the primary outright, so I went to the supervisor election and say, well, go ahead and swear me in for the rest of the term since there's no election for me in November. She said, no, you can't be sworn in until the term is up. And so right now I'm planning to be here till the end of October, and with God's help, that's the way it'll be.
Thank you, sir.
Can I add to that just a little bit? My understanding is that if you were to abdicate the seat, then it would trigger the charter requirements of us going through an appointment process, which would leave the seat open for a month or two probably. So it just further complicates that.
That'd be 5 minutes, Councilman Miller. If he was to resign, we appoint Ray because he's won the seat.
We have to go through a process.
That would be the process. Councilman Gambaro?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just echo the comments from Councilman Miller with regards to the MPD. You know, I see it as a strategic document with, you know, follow-on agreements for the different areas that some of the folks here today highlighted. But I've got a bigger concern. I looked at the the planning board's meeting last week, and the school board attorney, I think the data on the MIG is inaccurate. I mean, if you look at Florida statute 380.06, I think our attorney's opinion on the abandonment of the DRI is correct, and I think the school board attorney is wrong. Also, I don't think he has authorization from his elected body to be here. And that was confirmed when our attorney, Marcus Duffy, engaged him and asked him. He says, do you have authorization from your school board to be here? And he said no. So he is coming before one of our planning boards and presenting information. He's freelancing, okay? Without, I mean, Mr. McDonald was talking about moving out on stuff without having authorization. That gentleman there is operating without the direction of his board to come before this board to counter something that we're considering. And I would argue the same thing for the county attorney as well. And so, you know, we talk about undue command influence or I mean, I don't know what he's doing, but to me, I think he has a personal agenda, and I'm not quite sure what that is. Okay? He doesn't have authorization from his board to come here and engage us in the fashion that he did, and I think it's unprofessional and unacceptable. And I look forward to him coming back so we can address that face-to-face with him. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor, may I respond to that?
Yes, Vice Mayor, go ahead.
So I don't really care about the attorney coming here without the authorization of his board. That's between him and his board if that's the case. But what I will say is I've read the statute, and you know, I've had conversations with our legal counsel about this. I agree with part of our legal counsel's opinion, and I agree with part of the school board's counsel opinion. But just as an aside, I made my opinion on the statute before I actually saw the school board opinion. And it's my opinion that we are not forced to abandon the DRI. However, if we accept a new MPD, because there is no development out there yet, there can be different infrastructure, concurrency, et cetera, requirements in the new MPD that don't necessarily have to, from a legal standpoint, match the legal requirements that were in the DRI. So, you know, again, I think that this is a kind of a separate conversation, but I do want to make it very clear that I am holding stern on making sure we have an MPD that's acceptable prior to abandoning the DRIs, because I don't believe that we're legally required to abandon the DRIs. And that's from my reading of the statute. Unfortunately, there's no case law on something like this. I looked for attorney general opinions, and I didn't see any of those either. So we're, obviously a bunch of attorneys, and when you get a bunch of attorneys in a room, you can have 19 different opinions. But, I only say that to say that's just, I'm 1-5, right? But that is my opinion of it, and that is why I am sticking so strongly to my position. It's not because I recognize a legal opinion that I agree with, but I'm going against it. I just don't agree with that stance on the statute. So just to make my position very clear, I don't want it to seem like it's an arbitrary and capricious position. It's not. But if there's nothing else, sorry, I recognized Mr. Blocker and then didn't allow you to speak, so I apologize.
That's it. I'll give my comment real quick. As far as the seat is concerned for Mr. Sullivan and Mr. Stevens, we need to check into that, Mr. Blocker, about the precedent, because I think that gentleman that held that seat, he was appointed, he won the election, they turned around and just swore him into that position. So we need to check the precedent, and we sure should, stay with the precedent of previous councils and what they did. Not anything against you, Dave, but Ray won the seat, and it was his seat to begin with, so that's the kind of irony in
The
it.
problem is he declined the seat. He should have taken a leave of absence,
Yeah.
and then it wouldn't be any problem. He didn't do that. This council has had a series of people who have resigned before the end of their term. I'm trying to set the precedent that if you get appointed to something for a period of time, that you complete the assignment.
Yeah.
And I think that's more important at this point in time. I talked to Ray. He's okay with everything.
Okay. I get it, but please check the precedent, Mr. Blocker. On the
Precedent doesn't hold any legal basis in this case. As I pointed out, that I went through a similar situation at the county, and the legal situations, I agree. If I just left, you could appoint somebody.
Yeah. On the MPD, I think one of the first things after we had our last meeting for version 5 was for the economic impact report for the MPD. And they had one dated, I think, June 23rd. We need an economic impact of the MPD on the city for at the current system, property taxing system, and if it changes through referendum in November, because things are completely going to change. The whole argument about rooftops, we need rooftops to bring in industry, that's not going to hold water anymore. It's not going to hold water at all. We don't need more houses. We need economic development, industrial, commercial development. We don't need any more houses right now. We can't sustain any more houses right now. The memorandum of agreement between the developer and us and the Historic Society, I haven't seen anything on that. I don't even want to see anything come to this council unless we have the economic impact analysis, both at the current ad valorem rates and the future if the amendments have passed, and also the agreement with the Historic Society. They need to be able to go out there and explore that land and see what artifacts are out there. So I know the city's not ready for this. I think Vice Mayor and I both agree on that. So we'll just have to see how it pans out. But we are diligent. I think everybody on this city council is diligent concerning this MPD because we understand the impact to our community. So we're not going to pass it unless it works out for the city. There's no financial commitments in that MPD from the developer. We went and lobbied for that $26 million. So we are inheriting a road that we didn't need. Because if they wanted to go out the 2209, they could have done 2 straight shots, straight line roads out, not a loop road. That's a pass-through. This is a pass-through appropriations for the developers. And I'm not happy with it at all because we could have used that $126 million for our infrastructure, which was on our ask for those years, right, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, water.
And we didn't get barely anything out of it. So,
Not to mention water was tried to prioritize water to boot, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, yes.
excuse me, if we could rewind a moment, though, and make sure that we get some clear direction from staff on some of those two items that you mentioned. We get consensus of a council and direction to staff on those.
Well, to me, I would like consensus. We should not, anything concerning that MPD should not come to us without that memorandum of agreement with us, the developers, and the Historic Society, and the economic impact to the city. Because to me, if it costs us one damn dime, I don't want anything to do with it. You're going to pay it. Same thing with water treatment. You bond it, you build it, you run it until 2050. Because my residents, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not going to vote for any increase for our residents concerning that Westford expansion. So we can get consensus on the economic impact agreement or economic impact analysis, both versions, and also the memorandum of agreement with the developer.
I think we do have an economic analysis that's already been shared with this council. And here it is. It's 75% non-residential, 25% residential. Over the next 30 years, it's $756 million benefit to the city, and it's $1.1 billion benefit to the county. Okay, so maybe you haven't seen it, Mr. Mayor, but it's pretty impressive, the amount of net cost benefit that it's going to come to the city. Now, the things that we still need to hammer out, and whether or not the applicant's going to pay for them, those things are still up for discussion. But the overall economic analysis is pretty impressive.
But
that's already provided.
But the version you've seen, and that's the one I breezed through, but it's not for what could happen after November. We need to know, because we're not going to be getting that revenue from houses if that referendum passes. So we need to have two versions, the one at the current and then the one with the changes.
Well, I mean, that's why 75% of it is non-residential. I mean, we fight, this council has said, did I get it backwards?
Way backwards.
Okay.
Well, okay. This is so off the rails at this point. First of all, an economic impact statement doesn't necessarily focus on property taxes that come into the city, because that's not, I've said this for years, residential development is not economic development. Those are not, we've relied on it for way too long as economic development, but they're not one and the same. An economic impact statement focuses on active and passive outside dollars that will be brought into the community because of development. So when we look at the industry, the industrial land that will be created, some of the ecotourism, some of the other just parks and rec tourism that is projected to be out there, sports complex, things like that, that's more of the focus of an economic state. I don't know that the change, possible change based on Amendment 3 will really matter. I mean, yes, of course it's going to matter, but I would say we shouldn't wait on that. What I do agree with, though, Mayor, I do think the memorandum of understanding with the Historical Society, which to me, that's not a very heavy lift. That should be an easy one. But I do agree that more specific infrastructure needs to be added to the MPD, and I've been saying that. I know that, to what Councilman Miller said, they want to produce mitigation agreements later on down the road. That's not going to fly with me, and I've said that. I know that's the position of the developer, but we are asking them to, or asking us to trust them, and I don't trust any developer, so I can't treat them differently. They've been very professional, they've been very kind, but I don't trust them any more than I do any other developer, and my trust in developers is at 0.5%, if that. So, I would say that in order to move forward, they and abandon the DRIs, which currently do hold them to certain obligations, they do need to present an MPD that's acceptable to this council, and that's acceptable to our PLDRB's request, if you watched it, for more industrial. What I will say about the land layout in the current MPD is it's 50% conservation in one way or the other. Yeah. So open space. Yeah, that's right. Not conservation, but open space.
That's something that we did a year and a half ago in the comp plan almost.
Yeah.
As part of the
The
NPMU,
NPMU.
that we required that. And if I recall, Vice Mayor, you and I were very specific about trying to remove some of the I want to say broad or general terms that allowed for certain spaces to be applied to the green space, so that it was more restrictive, so that it's not, the
It's
grass
legitimate.
not the grass under a high tension power line. It's forests and things like that. So that was one of the things, and then I think we also doubled the requirement for industrial at the time, so from 50 square foot to 100 square foot per residential unit. So some of this we've pushed even as far back as a year and a half ago almost. Sorry to jump in.
No, you're right. It's gotten better, right? I mean, because we did that as a part of the comp plan. But so that's why I say I don't know that a new economic impact statement is really going to be that crucial. But I would agree that a better MPD is necessary.
We need to know exactly how much it's going to cost the city, like from the first year to the 10th year, because it's not going to be free. Nothing's going to be free, and we're going to be paying it. Like I said, we're inheriting the road that we really didn't need.
Well, and that's another thing, Mayor. Yes, I agree with you that the road benefits the developer, obviously, because they were supposed to pay for that road. But, I don't think we need to let the state off the hook so easily, because this is supposed to be another roadway, a state roadway that is going to provide for emergency access and other things that benefit the state. It was disguised as an appropriation for the benefit of the city. And that's what irritates me the most, because to your point, we had other infrastructure needs desperately for water. And instead of granting us those, we were told, here's money for a road that benefits a developer in the state more than it does the actual city. Now, we will get economic development benefit from that, yes, but the developer was supposed to pay for it.
I just to jump in, I agree with the assessment that we're routinely told by the state, hey, you guys prioritize and we'll help you out with those things. And it seems like that's not the way it works. It seems like they have their own priority list at times.
Well, go right ahead, Councilman.
I did watch the planning board live the other night, and I thought it was a thoughtful discussion concerning the MPD and the whole development. I do have some concerns, and I haven't made up my mind yet on the MPD at all, because I also felt there had to be some changes made to a couple of things. One, more industrial early in the process, and at least some kind of reasonable estimate of how much it's going to cost the city. Because I agree with the mayor that we don't have a good feeling for, we can't afford any more money. We have to pay off a 30-year bond for $300 million and things like that. So we have to make sure there cannot be a lot of extra costs to the city of Palm Coast in the westward development. And those are the two issues that I continue to worry about.
Thank you. For those of you that don't know, when I first was elected, I had a meeting with all the major developers, all the landowners, and I was like, we need property for industrial. So in this current MPD, they're offering up 3 million square feet or whatever for industrial. That's like 68, 69 acres. They have a plot of land down on the south end of like 200 acres. That was more than a year ago. They could have said, hey, Mayor Norris, we want to help you out. We want to help the city out. We want to move forward and try to develop this land in the south end for industrial development. Not a peep out of them. It's all been about the comprehensive plan, the land development changes, and passing this MPD. So I am not for it, and we're a long way from ready for that MPD, in my opinion. Anything else from the council? Any follow-ups, Mr.?
Just wanted to say I agree with Councilman Sullivan in terms of the phased approach to requirements of industrial, getting some of that on the front end, because we know that's a pain point for us. And if you have it in the MPD and it doesn't define when it happens, then there's no guarantee it necessarily ever happens. And so we need that. We need that to be, when we're talking about the proposed Amendment 3, and it taking a big chunk of residential homesteaded property tax, well, we are already short on the industrial and commercial, but what's left after that big chunk is taken out, we're going to be more heavily reliant on industrial and commercial, which would be a good thing if you're growing that, but it's a bad thing if you have little of it. And so we need that on the front end, big time. I agree.
68 acres is a drop in the bucket for this city, is trying to catch up industrial, commercial. It's just a drop in the bucket. I'm not happy with it at all. Anything else for the council? Mr. Blocker, any follow-ups from you?
Yes, sir, if I could, just going to the, I think going back to the appointment, so went back and looked at some of the historical data. So back in August 15th of 2016, the council member, Bill McGuire, resigned. The previous city charter language at the time required the vacancy to be filled within 30 days.
That was the old standard.
September 6, 2016, to meet that deadline, the city council appointed and swore in Mr. Cuff after the primary. This happened because the seat was empty. The city council were appointing Mr. Cuff to comply with the city charter at that time. It's just kind of the historical data for y'all's reference. On November 15, 2016, Mr. Cuff was sworn in a second time when the new city council officially took the office because he won the primary election and received more than 50% of the vote in the primary. I think part of that was because Mr. Cuff was sworn into the appointment in September and then was sworn in again for the November election. So that's just kind of the
So he was seated twice then in this case?
correct.
Okay.
That's just, again, this is long before any of y'all were here. This is just how the prior city councils handled it. So this is just kind of the initial review that I was able to pull up from the historical record. As far as the charter amendments, our review of the charter process was it was correctly followed. Obviously, we're going back 8-10 years. The legal challenges and review for legal sufficiency with charter amendments, there is a statutory provision for when appeals can be made and where injunctive relief can be offered. We're long past that, so I would say at this time frame, any challenges to an amendment that was approved by the voters 8-10 years ago is really untimely at this point. So that would be our legal opinion, just from a pure legal standard. So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else from the council? Okay, we're going to move on. We have minutes to approve. We're approving minutes for the city council meeting July 7th, 2026, and the business meeting July 14th, 2026 workshop. Anyone have any issues with the minutes or ready to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You good, Ms. Cook? All right, thank you. We're moving on to the consent agenda. We have 3 items. Does anyone have any specific concerns with the consent items?
Mayor, I have one question about number 2, and then as far as number 3 goes, I just wanted to thank, again, Public Works for saving us quite a bit of money in what they were able to do at ITSC, and I wanted to thank staff for working with Little League. Thank you, Little League, for your partnership, and also thank staff for putting together some options for us to hopefully the extra parking is an investment in the Southern Rec Center that will help to increase revenues there. But I'm really excited to see those improvements, both safety and I think essentially tourism and economic development based. So thank you as far as number 3 goes. For number 2, I just had one question, Mayor.
All right.
I got to find it, sorry.
Miss Jackie, are you in the room? Oh, there she is.
2, so this is the resolution approving the CBDG. Yeah, and sorry, I'm trying to find my.
Well, while we're waiting.
Thank you, I apologize.
I just, on number 2, we did discuss this as the working group and unanimously thought it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, thank you. For number 2, so I wanted to know how if you look at the summary of the amounts that are being allocated, Ms. Jackie, on the planning administration, and we have $60,000, I wanted to know how that figure is arrived at. It looks to be about 14% of the total amount allocated. So is it usually a percentage, or do we do a flat rate every year?
We usually do a flat rate every year, but this year we increased it by the bid that was coming in for the new program to cover the bid as well. So usually it's $35,000. The quote we got was almost 20, but the quote has expired, so we did 25 to make it an even 60,000.
Okay, because it did seem to be a little bit higher, and so that's what kind of prompted that question. Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I had nothing further, Mayor.
Any other council members have any issues? Motion?
Mr. Mayor, move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We got a second. Any follow-ups from the council? We'll open this item up for public participation. Does anyone have any comments concerning the 3 items on the consent agenda? Seeing no one. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mayor Norris, Vice Mayor Pontieri, members of council, City Manager McLaughlin. My name is Todd Milner. I reside in Peace Section, have the privilege of serving as president of Palm Coast Little League. And I just wanted to be here to just give our sincere appreciation that you guys would vote on this issue for, hopefully what will pass item G3 in the consent agenda. By allocating these unused funds for the Indian Trails improvements, you show the exact kind of common sense leadership that public-private partnership does and how it makes sense for our community. I especially wanted to thank you for prioritizing the safety netting on Field 2 alongside the batting cages. Taking care of those safety features really shows our families that this council puts the well-being of our children first. Wanted to say thank you to James, and also to Carl Coate and Carmelo Morales, working alongside them. They've been professional and they've helped us along, so thank you for that. So we're just ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work on this, and just wanted to say thank you so much for your leadership, your trust, and your partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any last follow-ups from the city council? Ms. Cook, if you could call the vote, please.
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on to item H, appointments. Number 1 is an appointment, 1 member for the Volunteer Firefighters Pension Board. Is anyone presenting? No one's presenting. We only have 1 on the list. What's the name, Ms. Cook?
Mr. Mulligan, and he is in the audience today if you'd like to have a conversation with him. There's 1 vacancy on the board, and Mr. Mulligan has applied.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Mulligan, would you like to address the council? Where's he at? Yes, sir. It's easy when you're running. You're only 1 person. It's easy.
Yeah, right. Good morning.
Morning.
So good morning, Mayor, member of council, Vice Mayor, City Manager, Fire Chief, and City staff. Thank you for the opportunity today to be here, for considering my appointment to the Volunteer Firefighter Pension Board. A little bit about myself. I'm a Palm Coast resident and currently serve as a lieutenant with the Palm Coast Fire Department. I previously served as a treasurer of our firefighters union, where I helped oversee financial records, accounts, expenses, and affiliated 501c3. Earlier in my career as an assistant golf professional, I also helped maintain and track expenses with an operation that had a multi-million-dollar budget. Those experiences gave me a strong foundation in leadership, accountability, and a responsible financial oversight. I just want to say thank you again for the opportunity to have the potential appointment to the Volunteer Firefighter Pension Board.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for volunteering, too.
Of course.
Thank you.
Motion to appoint Mr. Mulligan.
Second.
We got a second. Do we need to open this up for public comment, Mr. Blocker? Okay, you can stand down, Mr. Mulligan.
Thank you so much.
We'll open this up for public comment if there's no other comments from the council. Anyone? No
Just thank you for volunteering. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Ms. Cook, if you call the vote.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on to H2 appointments, appoint members to the Code Enforcement Board. What's the rundown on this one, Ms. Cook?
The Code Enforcement Board has 4 regular members, seats coming available, and 2 alternates. You've received 3 applications for these 5 open seats.
So if I may, Mayor, I know for both code enforcement and PLDRB, we have received less applicants than there are seats to fill. And I don't think the seats become vacant until September. So I would actually ask that we table this, open the application process back up for at least 2 weeks, but I would prefer maybe 4, excuse me, allow some more people to apply and then come back, only because I think we just need some more applicants. I mean, the numbers show us that. Excuse me. So I would make a motion to actually table this and reopen it for more applicants to apply.
We got a motion to table. Do we have a second?
Second.
We got a second. Any further discussion? So we're going to additional 4 weeks or 3? Which one do you want to go with?
I would leave that to staff because as far as when the applications come in, when we have to vote, as far as what the agenda looks like, and then when they actually take their seats, I want to make sure for staff they're not jammed up time-wise. So I don't have a preference there.
Just for clarity, they wouldn't be seated until later, right? And by changing this timeline, we're not changing the time when they're seated. We're only making it closer to it with the effort of trying to get more applicants.
Yes.
Okay. As long as staff thinks that they can accomplish this without it being too close, I'm good with it.
Yes, so I just had confirmation from staff on that particular issue. Should not pose a delay because we do maintain quorums as needed. So this should not cause a untoward problem.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any further comments from the council? We'll open this up for public comment. We're just tabling it to allow more time for applicants. Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on to H3 appointments. Appoint members to the Planning and Land Development Regulation Board.
That's the same, right?
Same, I would make a motion to table to allow more applicants.
Second.
We got a second. Any further discussion from the council?
I know of 2 people that are also interested in applying, so I think it makes sense.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. We'll open up for public comment. Anybody have any issues with us tabling that to allow more applicants? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're going to recess the city council, and we're going to convene the SR 100 Corridor CRA Board. Our one item on the agenda for that is State Road 100 Corridor Community Redevelopment Agency Resolution 2026-XX, approving a purchase and sale contract with Sanders Trust LLC for 8.5 acres in the Whispering Pines area of SR 100 Community Redevelopment Area. Whew. Okay, Miss Virginia.
Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Virginia Smith, Land Management Administrator, and I am joined by Craig McKinney, our Economic Development Manager, and today we're going to present to you the opportunity to redevelop the CRA area in the Whispering Pines location. So a little bit of history for the CRA, the Community Redevelopment Area. Since 2005, the CRA and the city purchased 22 lots in the Whispering Pines area. The purchase price of the total of all of those lots was $3,163,628. We recently appraised all of those lots, which is a total of 8.5 acres, and it came in at $2,775,000. So the city in the time in order to redevelop that, we purchased all of these lots was to remove the property's well and septic systems. And City Council paid, and the CRA paid premium prices for this area because it was during the big boom of real estate. So that approximation of average per lot was $138,000 at that time. Today, the 8.5 acres that make up the 22 lots appraised at approximately $2.8 million. The request for qualifications was sent out, which is a public bid for redevelopment of this area. 3 bids were received, all were responsive and responsible. The evaluation team unanimously chose Sanders Trust LLC with a purchase price of $1.9 million, reserving $250,000 for the remaining parcel that is privately owned in the Whispering Pines area. This is a location map of Whispering Pines. It consists of Family Avenue, Dunson Avenue, Giroux Street. The property with the X is the one that remains privately owned, and this will be a private sale with the property owner. This is the proposed building that we received from Sanders Trust LLC, and I'm now going to turn this over to Craig McKinney for the economic benefits of this project.
Good morning, Council. Craig McKinney, Economic Development Manager. This project is going to represent a $31 million investment to construct a 36-bed inpatient rehabilitation hospital. It's going to create high-quality, well-paying healthcare jobs for the city of Palm Coast with an approximate 100 full-time employees and an average salary of $75,000 annually. The ad valorem property taxes are estimated to be around $182,000 per year. It'll bring additional economic activity to the city with an estimated $45 million in total economic impact during the construction phase, to which there's been a commitment from Sanders Trust to use local trade companies as much as possible. And it's going to support surrounding retail, housing, and service businesses as well. In addition, there may, and we anticipate, that there will be complementary uses on the same site in the future. A big component of this is improving the access for advanced rehabilitation services to residents in the city. We all know, either through ourselves or through friends, someone who's had to travel outside of Palm Coast for specialized medical services. So it'll reduce the need for residents to travel. It's going to enhance our regional healthcare infrastructure, and it's going to enhance the character of SR 100 and Town Center with the building incorporating high-quality architectural finishes and materials. The project itself is designed to support efficient vehicular circulation and pedestrian connectivity. There will be cross-access opportunities to help in creating a more integrated and walkable corridor, and there will be additional long-term healthcare anchor for the corridor as well. The Sanders Trust was the party that responded to the RFP, and they are going to enter a private lease agreement for Clear Sky Health to operate the building for 20 years. Clear Sky Health is a rehabilitation facility with 16 locations nationwide and 2 locations in Florida. So with that, staff recommends that we adopt the resolution approving the purchase and sale contract with Sanders Trust for the 8.5 acres of land within the Whispering Pines area of the CRA.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion from the council?
I just have one question. Can we do a clawback provision? Because it seems like we're kind of giving a break a little bit on the sales price because of what they're proposing to develop. If they don't propose to develop that, and I think this is probably a joint question here to legal and to you, if we can do a clawback provision that states essentially that if they don't develop a site that's substantially comparable to what they're proposing, that they pay the appraised value and not get a break on that price.
From a legal perspective, we would have to look further into that. I mean, the two parties can make it, as long as it's not legal, immoral, and unethical, agree to that, but I think that would require, I don't know that we could impose that. I think that could be our position, where we'd have to have agreement from the other party. But we can look into that further.
Sure, no, I get that. Yeah, definitely would have to be mutually agreed upon. But I would ask that be looked into, just because, again, we're hoping that this comes to fruition. I think that they probably hope it does too. But it seems that as a part of the consideration that we are offering them, it's because of what they're proposing to bring here. And that's just me, so I would ask for a consensus on that. But
we're going to get a second read on this?
Yeah, this is the first read.
No.
We tried, I do know we tried to put some type of clawback in, and they were very adamant that they are moving forward with this. Marcus had worked diligently with their attorney on this, as well as Mr. Zobler. And we got the commitment from them to build and have that 20-year lease in effect as well. And I'll turn it over to Mr. Zobler for more information.
Good morning, John Zobler. It's my understanding from Sanders Trust, and I'm happy to obtain a copy of it. They've already executed a lease contingent upon, a 20-year lease with Clear Sky contingent upon the purchases of this property. So that is the 20-year commitment that they're going to build this project on that site. If that's sufficient, I'm not sure if there's some other requirement.
And also, in addition, the standing property that's there, their sale is contingent upon our sale, but they have also provided moving expenses for the tenant that is in that home.
I had that question as well, and now that you're up here, John. So we've taken care of that in terms of the gentleman that lives on the remaining property?
That's been shared with us by Sanders Trust, that the seller, who is not the tenant, is also comfortable with that relationship and how he's being handled and managed and supported. I don't have the specifics exactly, but I was told in a number of different ways the funding that they were going to be providing to him, which is not part of this agreement.
Do we is there a representative of the other party here today? Okay. I was going to ask that potentially they could come and speak to that. And then I think something that you had mentioned to me before as well, were the conversations with AK Tires fruitful in terms of the access to that area?
Yes, we've ensured that they have access to the rear of their property through the front side. We've gone over that with Sanders Trust, that that's a requirement.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anything else from the council? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just, to Craig, John, and the team, thank you for working hard to facilitate the sale of this property, and also, further enhancing our opportunities for economic development, and also not, this is an example of, what'd you say, $182,000 in tax revenue to the city because of this project. I think it's a fantastic win, and just wanted to say, you guys did a great job in doing this, so thank you.
Craig, I have a quick question since we were talking about that. Is that $180,000 including the county portion of the CRA, or is it just the city portion?
I'm sorry, Councilman Miller, I didn't quite hear you.
Does that $180,000 include the county portion of the CRA taxes that will be generated, or is it just the city portion?
It would be the total of the CRA revenue, which
so
would
it's both.
obviously include the county. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. So just to echo Councilman Gebar's thoughts, the purpose of the CRA is for economic development and redevelopment of certain areas. This property in particular, I think, was one of the properties that was cited as part of the reasoning behind the CRA in terms of blight. So one, we're replacing that with something in terms of economic development that's good for the city, but also two, it's going to generate not just city taxes, but county taxes that go into the CRA and can be reused for more things like this. One, to pay off the debt that I think the CRA still holds, as well as, other things. We can help with the CDD in terms of roads in the area. We can do all sorts of things with it to try to bring more businesses to Town Center and the 100 corridor in general as part of the CRA. So thank you for all the work that you guys have done. I appreciate it. And hopefully we have more of this coming along in the future to kind of get that snowball rolling downhill.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Sullivan?
Yeah, just a couple of clarification points. I think if this comes to fruition, it'll be good. Are there any other incentives that we provided in association with this deal? And then second, just so I'm clear, the money that we get for the property goes into the CRA overall funds?
Yes, sir. So answer the first question, no, there were no additional financial incentives offered to the project, and the sale does go into the CRA.
Thank you. Go back to the slide with a number of employees, Craig or Ms. Virginia. Yeah, I'm not comfortable with us taking a loss like that on that property, but the only saving grace to me is the full-time employees bringing jobs to the community. We're not here to make money, but we can't be losing money. and especially all the things that's going on inside this CRA. So that was my only concern. Anything else from the council?
Just thank you guys for this. This is just another notch on the economic development belt that you can certainly be proud of, that we've seen since you've been here, and you're leaving us soon. And this is I think this is a good writing out in the sun, so to speak. So thank you for your work on this, and to John and your team as well. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, I wouldn't suspect they would be coming for asking for any other incentives, seeing how they got a big break on how much they're paying for the property. Any other discussion from the council? We got a motion. We'll open this up for public comment. Yes, sir, Mr.
I don't think we have.
Oh,
we don't have a motion.
We don't have a motion? I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We got a motion. We got a second. Now you can come up, Mr. Amaral. We'll open up for public comment.
Good morning, Tony Amaral, Palm Coast. This is what we're supposed to be doing here. This is an idea, it's a project that has been waiting for years and years and years to come through. Yes, we don't get the full value up front, but in the long term we will. Kind of touching on the Vice Mayor's concern, and I have it also, is can we have a provision, I don't know if it's too late, of a right of first refusal should this project not go through in a certain time frame? That would be definitely lawyers, not me, but it is something I think that would give everyone a little bit more comfort as far as that goes, where if it doesn't go through to fruition, something happens with the individual sale, then that way we just don't have a piece of land that we took a loss on, and we don't know if it's going to be 5, 10, 20 years down the road before we get anything on it. So that is something I would like to see added if possible. If not, just an explanation of why. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Mr. Blocker, is there any way we could do anything in there about a first right of refusal?
Mayor, I think that's something that we can certainly explore. Those are legally sufficient, and those are certainly things that government can contract. It happens all the time, but I guess we would just have to gauge interest from the other party and see if they're willing to enter into that.
So if we vote on this and approve it, though, that's it. It's done, right? There's no changes can be made after that for us, right? Unless we motion to table it until we find out.
Right. My understanding is that y'all are voting today on potential approval of what the existing contract as it exists today. Okay. So any amendments or additional terms would have to, I think, be discussed with the other party.
Okay. So everyone on the council comfortable moving forward, or would you like to table it and see if we can work out something?
I'm comfortable, given that they've already engaged in a 20-year lease, with the operator. So there's multiple kind of layers to this that indicate that they have every intention to do this. And I know sometimes, intentions don't equal action because things economically could change. But, I think based on what we know about this situation, that I'm comfortable moving forward.
I'm comfortable as well.
Anything else from the council?
I was just going to add, in terms of, Mr. Mayor, what you mentioned, I think Councilman Sullivan mentioned, in terms of the jobs and the 75,000. I mean, that's $7.5 million locally that is moved into our local economy every single year. A lot of economic impact studies show that there's a multiplier effect, right? That money is then spent, someone else earns that money, and then it's spent again within the community. So it's not a small amount of jobs for the salary. So I really appreciate this opportunity for both the company coming in and our local residents to have good paying jobs.
Okay. Any further discussion from the council? Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on to item J. We're adjourning the SR 100 Corridor CRA Board and reconvening the City Council. Resolution K, 1, Resolution 2026 approving the purchase and sale of contract with Sanders Trust LLC for the State Road 100 Corridor Community Redevelopment Area, 8.5 acres of land. This is all in relation to the previous thing.
Mr. Mayor, move approval of the resolution.
Second.
We got a second. Any further discussion from the council? We'll again open this up for public comment. Anyone have any comments concerning this purchase? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. Any follow-up from council? Ms. Cook, call to vote.
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro.
Yes.
Councilmember Miller.
Yes.
Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. We're moving on.
I didn't vote.
I'm sorry, I skipped Vice Mayor Pontieri.
Yes.
Okay, we're moving on to
Thank you.
item 2, resolution 2026-XX, setting proposed maximum millage trim rate and set the first tentative budget hearing date, time, and location for fiscal year 2027 budget. Ms. Ragsdale.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council, your finance team, Helena Alves and Gwen Ragsdale. Today, we are here to do a quick review of the general fund as presented last week, as well as adopt the maximum millage rate. We will begin with an overview of general fund revenues and expenditures. This slide provides a big picture view of the general fund revenues, which reflect an overall increase of approximately $4.6 million or 6.8%. As discussed last week, we are still updating department budgets and revenue projections as we move forward in the process. There are no changes to the fiscal year 2027 revenues from what you saw last week. We will continue to monitor state revenues and update as they come in, probably at the end of August. We have heard from council the need to update Parks and Recreation revenue for the Southern Rec Center. We are reviewing the revenue estimates with the department and will discuss further next week at our July 28th presentation. This slide provides a high-level summary of the general fund expenditures. There have been no changes since last week's presentation. The proposed general fund budget for fiscal year 2027 is $72 million, an increase of $4.6 million or 6.8% compared to fiscal year 26. The largest budget percentage increases are in public safety at 48% and public works streets at 20%. Before we move forward, do you have any questions or feedback on the general fund revenues or expenditures?
Anyone have any questions?
I'll hold my comments to the end. No questions.
I have one.
Go right
I just
ahead.
want to reiterate that the budget as presented does not include the $1 million plus for 9 new deputies for the sheriff's office. Does that continue to be the situation?
Correct. Okay, we will now review millage rate options. This slide shows the millage rate, the tax revenue generated, and the cost per 100,000 of taxable value. The budget as presented last Tuesday recommended a millage rate of 4.2296, generating approximately $46.5 million and would cost residents $423 per 100,000 of taxable value. The rolled back rate of 4.1387 would require a $1 million reduction from the proposed budget, as it would only generate $45.5 million in revenue, but would provide residents a reduction of $9.09 per $100,000 of taxable value. The 2026 adopted millage rate of 4.0893 would require a $1.6 million reduction from the proposed budget, as it would only generate $44.9 million in revenue, but would provide residents a reduction of $14.03 per $100,000 of taxable value. Before we move forward, do you have any questions or feedback?
Anyone have any questions?
Okay, next we will look at unfunded items and feedback we received from council. This is the unfunded items from last week's presentation, which include $3.3 million. It included 9 deputies for Flagler County, additional staff requests for new positions, other unfunded items to include unfunded positions, cost of living adjustment, and council priority from fiscal year 2026 for the Enterprise Asset Management Platform. Last week, council requested to add 9 additional deputies at a cost of $1.087 million.
Adding these with staggering dates will also increase the fiscal year 2028 budget at approximately $400,000. Council also requested adding 2 FTEs for Public Works. As you can see, the items on the right are follow-up items to include increased revenue for the Southern Recreation Center, reduce the allocation for the Flagler Humane Society, and decrease the code enforcement budget for a complaint-based module.
Mr. Mayor, I've got a question here.
Yes.
So, on the complaint-based model for code enforcement, what would that do to the amount of employees within our code enforcement department?
So we might need Mr. Zobler to come up and speak to it, since it's his department. I do believe they are doing a pilot program to figure out what that would be, but I would need him to.
Okay.
We are in a pilot program now. We have done an initial analysis of the mix of complaints, whether they're initiated by staff or they come in through citizens. The approximate mix is approximately 75% are initiated by staff and 25% are initiated by our residents. Not knowing what the effect might be, when we go to strictly a complaint system where one neighbor points to another neighbor, at a conservative level, I would not recommend a reduction below 50%. So that would be 12 employees.
12 employees?
Yes. Okay.
Okay, thank you. And then my second question is in the count of the sheriff's deputies, are we counting the position that we pay for, what are the SROs, I think? Which one do we pay for? Is it Flagler Palm Coast?
We pay for one, yeah. I don't know what's.
There is one resource deputy, school resource deputy. Is that what you're asking? Yes,
Right.
there is one.
Why are we paying for that position?
As long as I've been here, that's always been part of the contract, and that position has been built in. I don't have the history as to why. We might have to reach out.
I would like to know why, because if, could that be part of, offsetting the asks? I mean, could the school district pick up that tab for their school? I don't understand why we're paying for that position.
I think the county, Councilman Sullivan, doesn't the county pay for 2?
Yeah, I think when we agreed to the deputies in the schools, that was the agreement. It was an agreement that was reached jointly.
I would say, Councilman Gambaro, if Amendment 3 passes, that should certainly be a discussion, since the school board's budget won't be affected by the amendment. Certainly, I would advocate that they should pick up that last deputy. But yeah, I remember this coming up either last year or the year before with the county as far as the school resource deputies.
Sorry to interrupt, but I actually asked this question when I believe we had a county city, so it was the full boards of both our county and our city, and we received a presentation from the sheriff about this growing, the 9 deputies per year and all that, and I think I asked that question there, and I recall kind of a little smile and acknowledgement that this was something that was agreed to in the past. Right. And so I lean towards, I don't think this is necessarily our responsibility. I think we have separate budgets, and those budgets, we're dipping into our budget to pay for something that's somebody else's budgetary line item, so to speak. And to the point that you made, I agree that if this is further exacerbated by Amendment 3, where one budget is untouched and the other is 40% lighter, I certainly think that should shift that way.
I don't know. I think we should get in front of it. And quite frankly, if we want to fund, 2 other positions, which is, we could probably make an example. I think the city manager said there's another 45 similar asks, but the two positions for DPW, could those deputy positions fund those additional 2? I mean, things have changed since that agreement was made. Our budget situation is not the same. Why should we pay for something if we don't have the money to do it?
But neither is the school boards. I mean, they've taken a hit too. Because the waivers, I mean, I'm just saying, those are the facts. We've all taken a hit. Now, with Amendment 3, if Amendment 3 passes, I 100% agree with you. But as it sits, I mean, we've all taken a hit. It's tough. I don't disagree with you, Councilman Gambaro. I don't want it to seem like the school board is, is cruising in cash, because that's not the case either. I mean, they're struggling over there.
Well, I'm just looking out for our organization, and I'm concerned about losing 12 potential employees to fund, deputies potentially. We're responsible for our organization, and we've been very good with the sheriff's office, and we have an obligation to our citizens, but also to our employees here in the cities, and cutting 12 positions to fund positions outside of our organization. I'm not sure it makes sense. So that's where I'm at. Thank you.
What did you have, Councilman Sullivan?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that this part of the budget, the sheriff's separate contract with the city, is a small part of the overall sheriff's budget, which is, I think, 50 million plus. I don't have the exact number. And the point I want to make is that Palm Coast has about 80% of the residents. So for that $50+ million, and I guess including our contract, we're not just paying out of our ad valorem for the additional sheriff's deputies. We're paying the lion's share of the whole sheriff's budget. So comments, Mr. Gambaro, like you're making, like it or not, we're paying for most of those other two school security officers. So it is tough. I would like to see the sheriff's budget consolidated. How much does it cost to run the sheriff's department, period, including what it costs to handle Palm Coast? We're not special. We pay the majority of the money for the police department out of our ad valorem taxes. And this contract may get out of hand at some point, this separate contract, because I think it gives a false idea of how the sheriff's office is funded. Believe me, also the county, the building where the sheriff is, the jail, that comes out of other parts. None of that is handled by the budget we're talking about. So at this point, we have to understand that these 9 deputies, that's not a one-year expense. Next year, those 9 deputies will be there. And so that expense will continue. And we do have the threat of this amendment coming. I don't know what to do, but I'm just saying that as far as the money we have, if we're going to support this cost for the 9 deputies, we have to do something about the millage rate to handle that. If we go back to the current millage rate, as I've heard on this board previously, we just can't. It'll be a $4 or $5 million loss we're talking about, and then into the future, it'll continue. I mean, we got to do the best we can, and there are a lot of issues here, but this money just doesn't grow on trees either, and with what's the threat of coming in the next year. So I think we should be very careful about how we handle this. But I do want to point out on the sheriff's budget, we're getting to the point where our separate part, even though we're still paying for the majority of the sheriff's office, I'd like to see that budget consolidated into one number, and then we fund it accordingly.
I mean, I think that's certainly something that the city and the county boards can get together and discuss, with the sheriff's office.
I think the difficulty with that is that this city has chosen a specific service level above and beyond. So
I don't think that's true, by the way. I think that's a comment that was made. I don't think that's in hard fact.
Well, we are, because otherwise it would be the same amount of deputies as serves the county.
No,
without
the sheriff
city.
is responsible to provide police support for the city, period. And he has to do that at a point where we're not going to have an increase in crime, because he touts the fact that we have a 40% reduction in crime, but we still need more deputies. So I support the police totally and so forth, but I think as this contract with the sheriff gets bigger and bigger, I really think we need to carefully look at it because of the tails involved.
Oh, I agree with you on that. On that point, there's a point where the ROI on it doesn't make sense.
To make it clear, this isn't the only money that the city provides.
No, we pay into every county service.
Right.
Most of it, right? And so I agree with you. At some point, the ROI on this is not going to be worth it, right? So we have to continue to do the diligence to make sure that we're getting the best value out of this versus the alternative, which is another large capital expenditure of starting up your own police force, right? Or doing something.
Well, I'm not pushing that either.
But I mean, if the alternative is what, then, you know, you say.
We just, we force the issue.
Okay, I mean, we should be doing that every time, right, is to make sure that it's fiscally sound. In terms of what we were talking about with the SROs, I mean, Palm Coast has been doing its part in funding new deputies for several years now. You know, we made a commitment for this year. I don't know if it's fiscally feasible because of that, because of the current situation with the budget. But we have been, you know, we pumped in, what, 18 new deputies in the last 2 years. And so I think it's appropriate to look at some of the deputies that we're also funding that maybe we shouldn't be. I'm not sure. I'm not sure, you know, where the board goes with that.
Yeah, so when we initially decided to enter into this agreement, us and the county, it was based on a study that said at that time, back then, the sheriff was behind in the amount of deputies pursuant to the population. So now here we are, the third year of this agreement to fund deputies over this certain amount of time. And yes, things have changed. Yes, obviously, but the economy always does this. It ebbs and flows. You have to anticipate that this type of thing is going to happen. I think where I'm at this point is I've spoken to the sheriff's office, I've spoken to our union, I've spoken to staff. My position is that we fund 5 of the deputies. They said that they're going to do another study, a follow-up study next year. Let them do that study, look at where our current population is, and see, do they in fact still need the 4, or do we not need to fund any deputies for a few years? I understand, Councilman Sullivan, what you're saying about the contract. Perhaps, you know, at one point, where does it stop? Where does it end, right? But it ends with this, according to what we agreed to with them. And I mean, yes, it wasn't like we didn't enter into a resolution or anything of that nature, but we asked for data, show us data that supports what you're asking for. They did that. And now I think it's incumbent upon us to prioritize. That's what we're talking about here. We're talking about priorities. What are we going to prioritize as far as funding for our residents? And to me, and actually to Councilman Gambaro, what you said at the last meeting, public safety should be our top priority. So, you know, I think we can fund, and I'll go through the entire thing at the end, but I think we can fund the 5 deputies, and I think we can fund the 2 FTEs for Public Works. Take the 4 off the table, because I feel like from staff having to fund that next year is kind of giving a little bit of angst as well. So if we take those 4 off the table, only look at the 5 this year, and then have the sheriff's office do another study and come back to us and show us an updated need. To me, that's the best kind of option here in the middle of both worlds.
So to add the 5 deputies at the $164,150 per deputy, we would still be looking at $820,000.
And if we stop funding the SRO, we'd be down another 100, whatever.
Yes, if we did the 164 per deputy,
So really,
then we would be funding 4. 4 would be at $660,000.
the net change for us would probably be the 4 deputies instead of 5.
Vice Mayor, is your proposal that the 5 deputies start at 10-1, or would, because we're doing a reduced amount, would we stagger them?
Starting at 10-1, and I would not support taking away the SRO. I want to make that clear. I understand your point, but I wouldn't support thinking that.
It still ends up near $1 million.
Yeah, it does.
What's not in the budget proposal right now.
What else do you have remaining, Ms. Helena, Ms. Ragsdale? You got anything else? Any other slides?
Yes. So we are in the process of reviewing with departments and the city manager for next week's presentation. The initial review of the Southern Rec Center revenues at a 10% increase would generate approximately $30,000. At a 15% increase would approximately make $45,000, and a 20% increase would generate $60,000. The reduction to the Humane Society allocation would provide an additional $140,000. So the net of those two would be $200,000. We are still evaluating the cost associated with reducing the code budget. So do you have any additional feedback before we move on?
No, ma'am. Next slide.
Okay, this is a look at the trim timeline. The first public hearing is tentatively scheduled for September 9th at 5:15 p.m. here at City Hall, and we will advertise on the trim notice sent out by the property appraiser. This hearing will set the tentative budget and tentative millage rate. The final public hearing is tentatively scheduled for September 23rd at 5:15 p.m., which will also be held at City Hall to adopt the final budget and millage rate. The resolution to adopt the maximum millage rate of 4.2296 is in your agenda packet for approval today. Also, as a reminder, this millage rate will not be able to increase after it is adopted today. This concludes our presentation. We will need guidance on your maximum millage rate.
Thank you, ma'am. This is when the city manager asked for service priorities for me, and I sent him my information, and I can run down what I told him. I said, service priorities, Tier 1, protect and maintain at current levels, Sheriff's Office, Fire Rescue, Utilities, Public Works, Stormwater, which is an enterprise fund. Tier 2, subject to reduced levels of service, all other departments should be scaled back proportionate to meet budget constraints. I can't justify cutting that many people from code enforcement. I think it should be across the board cuts. And I personally think, since we had, what was our carryover, Helena? $2 million for carryover? What was that carryover?
Yes, so there's 4.2, but we are accounting for about approximately 2.1 through the budget process. So you do have available 2 million for one-time type expenditures.
Yeah, and if we go back and we think about it, last year we did a runaround trying to reduce the millage, and like a cut $1 million here, cut $1 million there. But we have a $2 million carryover, and we learned using the CFO's calculation that we were 5%, we overspent by 5%, right, Helena? Which was approximately 3.5 million.
I recall the 5% applying that formula, what we believe the formula was that they applied.
Okay. So
but that was for 2020's budget.
And excuse me, Mr. Mayor, it's also not a standard for us to be held up to as well.
Say again?
It's also not a standard that we have any type of statutory mandate as well.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is we overspent. We determined that through the CFO's calculation, we overspent by $3 million, but we have a carryover of $2 million. My perspective is we should go with the 4.0893 and make cuts across the board to get where we need to get. Keeping those priorities where they're at, because we don't know what's going to happen after this election is coming up. And it's going to hurt worse if we have to cut more jobs next year because of budget constraints, when we can start phasing it in now. That's my perspective, and I want to hold the line until we're through this election and then determine going forward. But I certainly don't think we should do like a clear cut on code enforcement, and you have to share the pain. It can't be just one department sharing the brunt of cuts. But that's my perspective on the whole thing.
We'll just need those service level expectations and the SAPs, your strategic action plans.
Yeah.
So we just need to be really mindful, though, that the fund balance, the $2 million, is for one-time expenditures. It can't be used to reduce the millage. So that's a challenge, right? That'd be nice.
And I think that, to me personally, I think that $2 million should go straight to the roads, because we used like $1 million from reserves last year to put towards the roads. We have that clear cut $2 million that we can enhance the roads at this time. Correct, Helena? It could go directly to the roads?
It would be a city council decision.
Okay.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, and so, the fund balance, I think when capital projects comes back, we'll talk about what to do with the fund balance. So I do just trust me, it's on my mind all the time, but I do want to keep that separate because this is enough now to focus on. I have a similar position as you, Mayor. I won't vote to increase the millage rate. You may get me to the rollback, but I will not vote to increase the millage. The state of Florida is telling us to reduce government spending. And what do? We turn around and we increase the millage. And I'm not going to get on board with that. Last week I proposed a few ways to get us to a budget where we can fund our core government services without raising the millage, past the rollback. And some of the provisions I've heard back on, others I'm still waiting for more feedback from staff. I do think that we need to reduce and I don't even think we call it a reduction in level of service for code enforcement. And I say that because I honestly think our constituency is split between people who enjoy the fact that code enforcement peruses our roads and tags people for code violations. And I think there's a whole other side of the constituency who says, no, if I wanted that to happen, I would move to an HOA. I don't even want to call that a reduction in service, because if you see a code violation pursuant to the direction that the council agreed to last week, you can still call code enforcement, and code enforcement will still go out. And if they see any other violations on their way out or on their way back or while they're there, they can still ticket those individuals. This is simply we are no longer going to send you using vehicles and gas and time out on specified routes in a routine manner to ticket people for code violations. So I was told that would take about 12 and a half FTEs. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't like the idea of cutting 12 employees ever. In an ideal world, we wouldn't have to cut employees, but this isn't an ideal world. We don't have an endless budget. We have taxpayer dollars that we have to be fiscally conservative with. I also want to make sure that whatever we do, when it comes to any cutbacks that staff decides is appropriate in order to meet the direction that council gives with regards to the millage, that we're not just lopping off the bottom half. I actually think that there should be more boots on the ground and less butts in seats in City Hall. So to the extent org charts need to be looked at and made sure that we're not top heavy, that's what has to be done. I don't think that any other department should really be looked at, but again, it's not that I have I'm not strongly averse to that analysis, Mayor. I just think that if we're going to look somewhere, a reduction in the work that code enforcement does is where it should be. I am strongly still going to advocate for the 2 FTEs to Public Works, and I hope council is still on board with that, because I think that it's long past due, and the amount of money they save our city is far exceeds the amount of 2 FTEs. I asked about the city manager contingency history, and I understand that comes from fund balance, so I'll save that discussion for that time. But a few other things that I asked for were the impacts of the Flagler Humane Society's contract. I know we were paying them $156 per animal. They have asked us to go up to, I think, $392 per animal. Do we have a number on what the amount? Because in the last budget proposal, you all had worked in the $392 per animal figure. Do we know what the cost savings will be?
So the reduction in the Humane Society allocation would provide for an additional $140,000.
Okay, so that's at least 1 FTE right there, maybe 2 in Public Works. I don't know.
No, the cost of the 2 FTEs was $120.
Okay.
133.
133.
Yeah.
Okay, so it covers the 2 FTEs just in that adjustment alone, correct?
Can you go back to the other slide? Yeah, okay.
Is that a yes?
Pretty close.
What does the Humane Society?
133 to 100 would be the cost of adding the 2 FTEs with no vehicles.
So will the Humane Society continue to do their service for the lower price?
Nonprofit, they will continue.
I mean,
They have
if they
to.
want our contract, they will.
Well, okay.
Or we can enter into a contract with another organization. I'm not going to be beholden to the Flagler Humane Society.
Yeah, and my stance on this is it more than doubled.
It more than doubled.
And we just upped these rates last year
I
based
guess
on
it
their
will end
feedback
up
that they
someplace in
needed more
between.
money.
There'll have to be some negotiation with them.
Sure, that might be the case, but my point is there's money to be found. We just have to make adjustments to the budget to get there. And I'm not saying that it's going to be easy. I spent a lot of time trying to find ways to help us get there. And that's one of the ways that we have to get there. I also asked what we have estimated as ad valorem receipts year after year versus what the actuals were. I did get the email that you sent me, Helena, on that. Thank you. And it looks like we've been consistently overestimating anywhere from 50,000 to 200,000 each year compared to the actuals that come in. I would say that that could likely go into city manager's contingency, but again, I don't want to really muddy that.
I'm confused. Are you saying that we're collecting more than estimate?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah,
That happens every year, but I believe in the budget rules, you're only allowed to plan for 95%.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'm not saying that we need to be, within, single digits of that number. I'm just saying that bigger picture, when we're talking about contingencies and things like that, we've had a little bit of cushion there to be able to provide for somewhat of a contingency. The last thing I wanted to discuss with council is this merit increase versus COLA. So I asked for the numbers on what the merit increase looks like. And I think, is our COLA 2.3%? What was our COLA last time we did a COLA?
2%.
2%.
Said 2, yeah.
Okay. So I wanted to know.
Eligibility for merit.
Yeah, eligibility for merit. Did you get that email? Okay, and yes. This is going to come out bad, but it is what it is. I don't see an actual merit. It seems to me that, and I say that because the max merit is being given for employees that, quote, meet expectations. Mm-hmm. To me, there's no scale or reward for exceeding expectations, and I don't know that the max merit should be given for simply meeting expectations.
What is it? And there's a percentage in there, correct? About
96% of the employees are eligible for merit increase, from what I read.
At the 3%
mark. 3%, yes.
At the 3% mark. So, I am all for giving merit increases, but a merit increase should be just that. If they're exceeding expectations, then they get the max merit increase. If they're meeting expectations, they should get a lower merit increase. Or we get rid of the merit and we just go back to COLA. Because I don't find it, if I'm an employee and I'm exceeding expectations consistently and I get the same merit increase as somebody else who's just, quote, meeting expectations, that's not good for morale. So, we keep on saying, we got to keep up morale. We got to make sure that, we're being mindful of what's being said from the dais. And I agree with that. But, let's reward things that should actually be rewarded. Or go to a COLA and just get rid of the merit. So I don't know what council's position on that is, but to see that 96% of the fiscal year 2025 employees met the 3% mark for meeting expectations, I don't think is proper.
I think to your
Doesn't mean they
point,
all got 3%, right?
I'm sorry.
That doesn't mean they all got 3%, all 96%. Some got higher and some got lower.
So yes, the majority were at the 3%. I do have to clarify, I believe we spoke about this last week, but maybe I didn't explain it correctly. In the past, we have had a program that is for your higher performers. That's where you're allowed 5% for up until 2025, 20% of your employees were eligible for the PPP program. Last year, to meet budget constraints and allow for some of the necessary cuts that we had to do, we lowered that to 10%, and your proposed 2027 budget doesn't include that program at all. Okay. But if you have additional questions, I'm sure Ms. Renina Fuller, that manages our program, can speak to it also.
I don't have it in front of me, but the way I read that says the email that the vice mayor is referring to says that 96% received a 3% or higher merit increase. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. That 96% would receive the 3%.
Right. And so to me, I think that to the vice mayor's point, that really is, now we're just making the COLA, 5% if you're adding a 2% plus a 3% merit that everybody gets. I say air quotes because there is 4% not included in that, but almost everybody gets. That means the minimum raise was 5%. So for most people, for 96%.
So do we have consensus to say scratch the merit and just go with COLA?
What's the COLA?
It's at 2%, right?
2%.
I would advocate for 2.3%, only because I think that's what the county is doing, and I think that's where the sheriff's COLA is. It's 2.3 or 2.4. I don't think it's fair that we now, of course, they're under a union contract, so they have to honor certain things. But I don't think it's fair that we fund that and fund something less for our employees. But even with that, it's still some savings if you do the COLA route rather than the 3%. The 3% route.
I'd be interested to know how much that is. What's the difference between 2.3 COLA versus what was presented in the budget?
I have the numbers for what the merit program was. For 25, I worked with Renina and her group, so that was $481,000. We're estimated for 26, we're going to be at $510,000. For the merit program. So I would think that for 27, it would be about the same because we are reducing the high performers program. So I would guess it would be right around the 510. You won't see significant savings, I believe, because COLA hits once in January for everybody, whereas your merit program depends on your evaluation date. So it varies throughout the year. So they will even out about the same.
But we're also, we've had this conversation where we're talking about recurring costs. This is recurring savings, right? No matter where in the year it occurs. So if we're going to have that conversation and say things are, we can't do these things because they add recurring costs, then we can certainly have the same conversation and say that these are recurring savings. And so year over year, that will save money.
Either that, or we say, as a policy, a 2% merit is given for meeting expectations, and a 3% merit is given for exceeding expectations. My point is not just in the dollars and cents, it's also in conceptually, how are we rewarding work that actually deserves that higher increase? So, I know that's getting into more operational, but at the same time, we are still having to approve a budget. So that is a suggestion as to how to get there as we try to navigate this.
Then we would also need to have the same concern about the SO because we'll be funding their COLA and merit as well. So we will also need to be ensuring that that program is being ran as well as we manage our contract better, I believe.
Well, and that, yes, again, they're held to a union contract, the sheriff's office, and I don't know how the sheriff does their merit, and if that's a conversation that, we need to have with them, that's fine, but I'm not.
I personally, when I was running, I had a meeting with the sheriff, and the sheriff said he can't compete with city salaries.
Yeah.
And I don't think something said, well, why did you give a 2% COLA and then you give 4% merit? Well, we're trying to keep up with the sheriff. That's apples and oranges. The sheriff's department and city employees are two separate entities, and you shouldn't base what you're going to do on what the sheriff's department's doing. I'm sorry, that's just not.
Mayor,
conceptually, that's not the way.
I've also talked to the sheriff, and the last time I talked to him, they aren't having a problem getting people to apply for jobs at the sheriff's office. And the starting pay that they're getting is now competitive, fairly competitive in the area. And there's no dirge of, they're not looking for applications. They're getting plenty of applications at the current rates.
Yeah, I think what they're having, my understanding that the issues that they're having is, it's retention with experience. It's a compression problem, right? Certain ranks are not being paid competitively compared to neighboring cities.
Oh,
so
okay.
But a totally different discussion.
Yeah, totally different.
So anyways, that's just my position on that. Now, here's what I will say about the sheriff's budget. There, in our contract with the sheriff, there's an addendum, I think it's B, Appendix B, has a list of city ordinances that need to be enforced by the sheriff. And there are a few of them in here that I think our code enforcement has kind of stepped up to address, that I think that we need to go back to the sheriff's office and say, if we do end up funding these 5 additional deputies and say, look, we need to add the e-bike ordinance to this appendix as well, Mr. Blocker, so we do need to update the contract. But there's a whole list of ordinances that the sheriff's office has the duty to enforce. Some of them are like illicit discharge, some of the things that we know we send code enforcement out to address right now. So reminding the sheriff's office of this list of ordinances that, we agreed that they would address. I think abandoned derelict vessels, I know I've gotten a lot of calls and tapped our code enforcement for some of those things. So just, going back and kind of re-looking at this as we try to restructure this budget and figure out what we're going to do. I just think, look, Councilman Gambaro, you said during the last meeting that you prioritize public safety and how the city looks, so public works. And I agree with that. I think that we have a duty to make sure we're fixing potholes, make sure that when trees are down, we can send public works out there quick, fast, and in a hurry. They do so many things that we just could be here all day listening. In conjunction with funding the additional deputies and figuring out a way to make up those expenses elsewhere in the budget. Because at the end of the day, it's our job to prioritize based on what we feel our electorate wants and what we feel is most important to them. So my position has been this way because I think that public safety and all of the things that Public Works does is what is most important to our electorate, and that they do not want to see us raising taxes while doing it. So that's just, my overall position. So I'll be voting to not approve this max millage and going down. And I think, City Manager, I put the onus on you and staff to get us there.
We will just need to know additional cuts that may need to be made by service level expectation reductions, as well as we may have to revisit SAP and remove some of those projects.
Well, SAP, I think, though, is different to an extent because a lot of that is fund balance. And if obviously, if that needs to be readdressed when capital projects is before us and we're looking at the fund balance, we can certainly do that. I mean, we don't have to actually adopt the actual millage until September. So there's plenty of time for that. But to say that we need to adjust our service levels, I think that staff and you, City Manager, need to go back and look at the budget and say, okay, this is what we can propose to do, and then come back to City Council and make some of those proposals. Because I sat up here last week and listed off a number of ways to help try to get us there. So, I put the ball back in other people's court to come up with some ideas at this point.
Yes, ma'am. I just want to make sure that all the expectations are realistic. There is no money to find. We have not misplaced any funds. So that's where we need the policy of the service level reductions if we're going to go deeper than what we're already talking about.
Can you bring up our decision slide, Ms. Ragsdale? Okay. So what we're doing today is we got to set in stone the max millage going into FY '27. So,
Mr. Mayor, thank you for doing that because, we've batted a ton of things around today, right? And what I said last week was, let's give ourselves decision space, right? And we've got that coming up over the summer to see if we can get to the 4.093, right? And so I think it's important to preserve that decision space because some of the things that, the ideas that we've discussed here, they may not be feasible, and then what if they're not? Do we lock ourselves into a certain millage rate that's really going to reduce service levels to a point? I think we still need to have these continued discussions. We're going to have them next week, right? There's a whole different piece of the pie that we're going to do a deep dive into. And so all we're doing, I think, is just giving ourselves decision space that good strategic leaders always give themselves decision space to be able to make that final decisions. And it doesn't mean I'm going to commit to the 4.2296. You all know I can change my mind on that, right? So I just think it's important to give ourselves room to continue to have the discussion, to lock these things down, to make sure whether or not we can make it work and move forward.
Yes, sir. I would like to say this. This is for the general public and especially for the media. because I go on Nextdoor on Facebook, and the headline last week or all through this week was, the city has raised our millage rate, blah, 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 blah. We haven't done that. So for the media, you need to be very concise in your reporting. The only thing we're doing, just like last week, is we had a discussion about the max millage, and the day we were setting the max millage. It can't go any higher than that, and it's well below what the staff requested at 4.5526, and we set it at 4.2296. That's the max. Now, from our discussion last week, the same thing holds true today. In this economic time, when our overall property values have gone down and our population has only gone up 8,000 people, I do not feel comfortable raising the millage rate at all. That's negligible. The increase that we got was negligible, and that's the way I feel. I'm perfectly happy with leaving the max mill at what we set it at last week, and that's our max mill. All negotiations and all budget maneuvers to get where we need to be, to get it as low as possible, will be coming forward. But that would be our max.
Yeah, and we gave staff direction to bring that millage to us, and I appreciate the discussion to try to find a way to get lower. That's what we should be doing. And as you said, Mr. Mayor, this is setting a millage that then the conversation flows from here. Right. This is the starting point. It's not the ending point. As you mentioned, I also saw it in social media that a workshop had somehow set the final millage rate, and not the case. This adoption today would set the maximum to where we have conversations. We can't go statutorily. We can't go higher, and hopefully we can go lower. And so that's where it starts, this conversation. And then we saw the timeline slide that Helena had up earlier, and Ms. Ragsdale had up earlier about what the next steps are. So that's how we get to the final point.
Okay, I'm going to make a motion to accept the 2027 proposed maximum millage rate at 4.2296.
Second.
We got a second. Any further discussion from council? We'll open this up for public comment. Anyone have public comment concerning the max mill rate? Yes, sir, Mr. Amaral.
Tony Amaral, Palm Coast. What needs to be done, and you guys are doing it now, you're having the discussion, and that's the important thing. Trying to save the money. I'm a little concerned about like the Humane Society. Let's have options B and C already set up as opposed to being backed into a wall where they kind of think they have the upper hand. And then maybe it just goes out for a bid to see who is available to take care of that. If they're entering a contract with us, then it should be a bid process anyway. When it comes down to understanding our millage rate will possibly change in November. Actually, we'll go another year at whatever we set next year, and then it'll change. Keep the $2 million I've heard today, and I was very happy to hear from the mayor and the vice mayor, is put those $2 million towards our road. Commit to that. Say that's going to do it. Do not use those $2 million as any other part, because the roads have been falling behind more and more every day. You've had studies done that show that this is happening every day, and the closer we get to degradation, the faster they start getting worse. So that is a priority. So I'd like to hear that, consensus from all of you to give that $2 million strictly to the roads and repairing them. And everything else, it's like you said, you have to make cuts, you're gonna have to see where you gotta go, but keeping the millage rate where you're at, you already know you're not gonna get everything you want. Start and then work your way back down. And I like the way you guys are doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public comment, bring it back to DAS. Any final follow-ups from the council?
I know this is always a tough discussion, and we're in a tough time right now. I want to be very clear that it's not that I don't want to see anybody cut. That's not it. And I don't want the sentiment to be that it's a choice of one department over the other. It's not. It's a priority of services. And there are certain things that when you come across tough times, leadership requires that you prioritize certain services over others. And this is a public safety thing. And when I think about our electorate and think about who we are responsible to answer to up here, If you ask our residents, it's safety is paramount. So I appreciate everything that every department does. I think that every department is obviously necessary. I want to see a COLA or a merit, but I think if a merit is going to be a merit, let's make it a merit. So a meets and exceeds, actually a meets and exceeds. So those are just my overall thoughts and that I'll impart upon staff, because I know this has a tendency to be very negative, and it's unfortunate, but we have a tough job up here. So unfortunately, that's just part of it.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? No further comments. Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri,
No.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro,
Yes.
Mayor Norris.
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on to item 3, Resolution 2026, approving nuisance abatement and initial assessment. Good morning.
Sorry. Hip issue. Good morning, Mayor and City Council. Barbara Grossman. Today I have Lily Philippe here with me. She's pretty much the meat of doing the non-ad valorem tax for me and code enforcement. There have been no changes since I presented the initial nuisance abatement assessment list to you last week. Would you like me to go over the presentation again? I have it available. Otherwise, the item is ready for council consideration.
I don't need any more of nuisance abatement. What was the total amount on that one?
$119,000 that was right now, and it'll probably be a little less than that because we haven't tallied up, and they have until September. $1,019.75. And of that, just so you know, $34,200 is administrative costs that we receive in addition to what the costs are to the city.
State the amount again. It's
$119,075.
There you go. I don't think that's the way it came out the first time. Any questions for the council?
No, sir.
I think you said it was 100.
Oh, sorry, $119,075.
Thank you, ma'am. Can we get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We got a second. Any further discussion from council? No further discussion from council. We'll open this up for public comment. Anyone have any comments concerning the nuisance abatement? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the council. Any follow-ups? Ms. Cook, call a vote.
Vice Mayor Pontieri,
Yes.
Councilmember Sullivan,
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro. Sorry, we'll wait just a minute. Councilmember Miller,
Yes.
Mayor Norris.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grossman. We're moving on to Resolution 2026-XX, approving an amendment to the Downtown Urban Core Improvement Grant Program. John is on his way forward.
Again, good morning, Mayor, City Council. This is a grant that City Council had previously approved, the Downtown Urban Core Improvement Grant, back in November of 2025. I had mentioned to you during our last workshop that the filling of the commercial spaces for the tenants to make application for this grant was going slower than anticipated. And that was primarily due to the engineering and architecture requirements of building out those spaces, most particularly at the promenade. The amendment to this grant would extend the grant period for one additional year to the end of September of 27. And we also amended it so that a business like Serenity Mini Golf, who is not a tenant as an owner, who will be operating a quick serve at that location, should he decide to apply for the grant, we'd like to be able to support him in that endeavor also. And we added a few definitions. The principals are here. If you care to have an update concerning the promenade, Mr. Bill Angrick and Cornelia Manfrey are also here. We've been meeting with several businesses recently inquired about the grant specifically for the promenade. That includes Ty and I, 6th Street Deli, Fleet Feet, and I think Grandpa Joe's is coming in shortly. So the request again is just to extend the grant period.
And the funding for this, it's the $1.3 million, right? And it's
Yes, sir.
rolling over, and it's coming from the CRA?
Oh, economic incentive funds that you provided to.
This was SAP, Mr. Mayor, that we put money aside for this, but it will roll over, correct?
Yes.
All right, and so it's money rolling over from
not new
last
money.
year into the coming year.
Right.
And you're widening the scope a little bit.
Yes. And extending the time period to allow the tenants to get we require the engineering numbers. We need to know what the developer commitment will be for the space before we can move the grant application forward. And that's taking time for them to develop their architecture and engineering, whether it's a restaurant or a retail space or whatever that might be.
Is it possible to shift the funding for this from the CRA instead of from our city?
It is not coming from the CRA. It is coming from the Economic Incentive Fund.
That's what I'm saying. Can we shift the funding to the CRA so the money's coming from the CRA? Because of all this stuff that's going on is inside the CRA. And just like when I was talking about the Southern Recreation Center, funding for that site should be coming from the CRA, because that's the reason the CRA was established, was to build up this area and provide economic incentives. Is there any way we can shift that funding from?
All of the funding right now is primarily committed for the CRA. You just approved an ordinance, a resolution today to sale of that property, the $1.7 million. That money will not be coming to the city. I think the due diligence period is at least 90 days. So I can't tell you that existing CRA funds are available for this program.
Everybody see where I'm going with it, though? What I'm
Yeah,
trying to get at?
I'm picking
Because
up
that
what you're putting down.
1.3 could be used for something else.
Again,
Another
it would
carry-on.
be like a fund balance, because we can't put it towards something recurring, because then we'll have a bigger shortfall the next year. My thing with this, though, is that this was presented to us a couple years ago, I think, in terms of SAP, and we decided that we were not putting in the proper money for economic development based on all standards that we have seen. I went to a presentation that the University of Florida put on, Go Gators.
Go Gators.
At the I believe it was the Hilton Garden Inn, about economic development and the standards to which municipalities and counties should be investing in that. And so it said, 3% is the standard, and that's where some of this money came from, was us setting aside that as a strategic action plan priority. And so it's basically a plan we put in place, and it has a purpose, and we just need to extend the time period because of the construction of the promenade exceeding kind of what the initial estimates were, as well as the engineering specs required of the applicants to the individual units. So I appreciate that the question is, shouldn't we use CRA funds? But I think because of the way this plan was put in place, we've kind of identified all the uses for CRA funds currently. In the future, I know we're also talking about reducing those economic benefits this coming year in the current budget cycle that we just were discussing. So less public funds from the rest of the city versus the CRA will already be going into this based on our budget discussions for this coming year. So I think that alleviates some of the concern that we won't be putting another $1 million necessarily into this. We'll be putting, I think we talked about, it was $850.
That's right.
We talked about going down to $350 of what you guys have identified as uses for that.
Yes, sir.
So we're already reducing this dramatically, this program, because we were going from 3 to 2%, which was the $850, and then we discussed removing $500,000 from that 2%. So that really gets it down to probably 1%, something like that.
Well, but I think the practical matter is we've got folks that are trying to sign leases right now, right? And this postures the opportunity. The last thing we want is for that place to be, finalized, and we don't have leases. We want to see that place successful. And Mr. Angrick, sir, thank you for being here, and thank you for putting together this tremendous economic development project for our community. I mean, it's fantastic, and you're assuming a ton of risk going into it, but you believe in the project and you believe in our community. So I think at least I want to see that the promenade successful. And part of that is, you know, getting folks in there to start operating their businesses and for our community to enjoy it. And so I think the timing of shifting this now gives them some space to be able to execute on those leases, which I think is critically important.
Yeah, I think it adds certainty, right, to the potential tenants that this won't go away before they get a chance to finalize their plans.
And I have no problem extending it. And I have no problem with requiring an executed lease agreement. My questions were about the definitions and the additional business types, because I didn't see a red line proposed agreement.
Yeah, I apologize for that. We didn't include the red line, ma'am.
That's okay, but can we go through those?
I don't, let's see if I have a red line here.
I mean, I can't vote to approve something I don't know what we're approving. Certainly happy to motion to extend the sunset date and require an executed lease.
Help is on the way.
But
I do have a red line, ma'am, but I don't know that we want to step through it page by page. It's quite when we change definitions and eliminate definitions, I'd prefer to table it and provide you with a red line so that you have a chance to look at it.
Okay.
And I could better answer your questions if that's okay.
Would you prefer that we table the whole thing or motion to approve the extended date, so at least there's some certainty there?
Well, thank you for that. That would be extremely helpful to extend the date at a minimum, please.
Can we do that and then come back as soon as possible with those other changes?
That would be great.
Then I would make a motion to approve requiring an executed lease agreement and approving extending the sunset date, but tabling the other changes regarding the definitions and the additional business type until what's our next business meeting?
4th, I believe.
Until the 4th.
Yeah.
Second.
That won't be a busy meeting.
All right, we got a second. When are we going to do the ribbon cutting? When are we going to open it up? Talk to me. What we got?
We'll have Mr. Angrick come up. There's the principal of Persimmon.
Well, it was June, July. Now we're in August, so.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council staff, great to visit with you.
State your name, sir.
William Angrick, principal of PC Town Center Development. Subject matter, the Promenade Town Center. Almost 24 months ago exactly, we put the initial shovel in the ground. And because of the partnership attitude with this city, because of the unique nature of the town center, I think we've had outstanding progress to get to where we are in just 24 months. When you think about supply chain, accessing labor and material, and a lot of ripples in the overall economy, we've stayed focused on the task at hand. I'm pleased to say that we are beginning hard hat tours for the residential component. Safety is paramount, so we have a limited number of spaces where people can walk with the appropriate assistance and see the opportunity to live in the town center. And really the town center for any county is the crown jewel. We want people to think of the town center as a destination, to be the third place they go. You have work, you have home, but here's a place to gather with your community. And that first floor, which is about 56,000 square feet of commercial space, is sort of the heartbeat of bringing people together with shops and dining. We do have an office component, which is not a part of this incentive grant, but is a value proposition for companies to think of this as a place to build a business, have a regional presence, and participate in hopefully this larger economic growth on the Space Coast or the First Coast, the MedTech corridor. So this is a very important flagship project to present Flagler County, and particularly the city of Palm Coast, is a place where people want to invest permanent capital, generational capital, build jobs, give people a place to live and work within the city. Not in St. Augustine, not in Daytona, but within the city. So with regard to the ribbon cutting, we're every day making progress, and I think it'd be appropriate to have a critical mass of new businesses on the site open for the public to do a formal ribbon ceremony. And as was indicated by Mr. Zobler and his colleague, Mr. McKinney. They've been outstanding partners representing the city, pushing this forward, navigating what's a very competitive landscape, to attract capital and jobs and tenants. That's a very competitive landscape. Every city in the country wants these types of businesses investing, and it's not been an easy economy. The restaurant business failure rate is very high. You read about brewery operations and tap houses closing their doors every day. So what's different here is you have population growth, you have the natural benefits of being close to the water, you've got access to I-95, you've got a safe place to live. Those are really hallmarks of a place where people would want to come and invest, and now we want to make it a great place for companies to come and hire and retain employees. One of the big values of this project is if you're trying to grow a business, you want to have something to sell your employees. Why move to Palm Coast? And we hope to be part of that answer. So I would say we're going to partner with the economic development team and keep them informed on each and every lease opportunity. And I would say as we get through a 50% lease up, you'll have some critical mass, and then we should talk about celebrating a little bit and have a place to do it.
Thank you, sir. John, one follow-up. This excludes any housing developments, right? There's no housing developments included? Yes, sir. All right, thank you, sir. Any further discussion from the council?
It's a good question, Mayor, because previously there were incentives for housing that we got rid of.
Way too much.
Sunsetted.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second. We don't need to restate the question. Everybody understands the question? Okay, we'll open this up for public comment. Anyone have any public comment about extending the sunset date for the economic incentives for the town center, September 2027? No public comment. We'll bring it back to DICE. Any follow-ups from the council? Ms. Cook, call the vote.
Councilmember Sullivan?
Yes.
Councilmember Gambaro?
Yes.
Councilmember Miller?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Pontieri?
Yes.
Mayor Norris?
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. We're moving on to our final public comment. Anyone have any final public comments? Items not related to what's been on the agenda. Well, you could. If one person's talking, you can talk about what you want. What you got, Mr. Amaral?
I've got 3 minutes like everybody else. So it came up today, and it's just, can we come up with a process on how we're handling some of these contracts? I know it's difficult to try and make changes as they come up here last minute. It's happened recently. I think I can think of probably 4 different things that have popped up. Actually 3 land purchases, and then just today. A process of we are guarding the interest of Palm Coast first when we do these contracts. We are putting in the contingencies, right of first refusal, stuff like that I just haven't been seeing in our contracts. They come up. It is a bad position to put you in with the contract already ready and then trying to get things done. But if we have those policies put in place where we can factor in those things early, then it can come to you as a complete package and you don't have those questions. Every project, I believe that even the ones I'm talking about have been good for the city, but it is just that extra safety net that gives everyone that peace of mind where if something changes, it still will be in the best interest of the city. And that's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Ms. Cornelia.
Good morning, Cornelia Downing Manfrey. I want to thank you so much for allowing this grant to move forward for the promenade. As the leasing agent representing the developer, it has been very difficult to get national companies to come into Promenade. Number one, we're not on 100 with traffic counts, and 2, we're not next to the BJ's or the future Walmart, et cetera. So I have found that we're focusing more on the smaller, more regional type of tenants, and with that, being able to boast about offering a little bit more money for that construction build-out for these individuals, especially the smaller owners. It was already said Ty and I is coming. I understand that you all are frequent eaters at Ty and I, so we're very excited. They love this space. That extra little bit of money, that capital going into their pocket to be able to do the build-out is very important. We are working with numerous new tenants that are looking at Promenade. Every retail development takes a certain amount of development point for people to get attracted to it. Getting pre-leasing done is a huge task, and now we're getting a tremendous amount of response. So you're being able to give this grant for these smaller types of ownerships, restaurants, retailers, shoe stores, etc., is a big help. So I want to thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else for public comment? Seeing no one come forward, we'll bring it back to the dais. No comments? Thank you for coming up, Ms. Cornelia. Get some people in there. All right, we'll move on to item N, the discussions of city council matters not on the agenda. Councilman Gambaro.
Nothing for the group. Thank you.
Councilman Sullivan. Okay. Councilman Miller. Vice Mayor.
I have a couple. I want to thank the folks who have applied for the Planning and Development Board and the Code Enforcement Board so far. I think I saw a couple people here. One of the gentlemen left. Sorry that we're tabling it, but I do appreciate people who have volunteered. I want to, for whatever ears are listening, do somewhat of a call to action on the town center roads. So it has been discovered that for whatever reason in our, I think it's our MPD for town center, it says that in order to use impact fees to improve the roads within town center, we have to have the agreement of certain developers. Town Center Boulevard needs to be repaved. We have the CRA monies and or impact fees to do it, but they will not agree to do it.
So, I'm sorry to cut you off.
That's okay.
In terms of the impact fees, that would be for expansion efforts like four laning, right? Because we can only use those impact fees for more lanes, right?
Yeah, and I can't remember the specific language as far as if it's CRAs, impact fees, both, one of the, I don't remember, but however it's structured, we have to get permission from them in order to repave Town Center Boulevard. And they are saying no. I have a lot of feelings as to why they're saying no. If you look up who the developer is, whom I will not name by name, the current business that they have with the city, I think there's some bad intentions there, to be quite frank. But so I would say that to those who know that developer, to those who work with that developer, it does not help us from an economic development standpoint to get more businesses into town center. And, you know, there's a lot of apartments that are currently leasing spaces, and they're, you know, getting people attracted to those developments when the main road in and out is full of potholes. We have the monies. I think this council has been hyper-focused on getting roads fixed. We're willing to do it. They need to come to the table and agree to let us use these monies to fix that road. So that's my shout out to them. The last thing is I did watch the Planning and Development Board meeting live when the DRIs were being discussed for the westward expansion. And there were some comments made by the board that I want to address. First, I want to thank them for their service. They have a really hard job. They are an advisory board to us regarding planning and development projects that, pursuant to our LDC, have to pass through them and get their advisement to us prior to coming to us for an official vote. It can be very time consuming, and they get a lot of the same chagrin that we get when we're talking about and considering development. So I do appreciate their service. A couple things. There was a comment made that somebody has invited all council members to come to those meetings on a couple of occasions, and council members never come. I've never received an invite from any of those PLDRB members.
I can say that I have never been invited as well. That struck me as odd, and almost that statement, to me, if you make it so boldly, I'd call it a lie. Because it didn't happen. So it was very strange to me that comment was even made.
Yeah, and I only bring that up because, not to, call anybody a liar or call anybody out, because if I wanted to do that, I'd say their name, but to say that we care very much about what PLDRB does. I don't want that board to feel minimized. The fact that we don't go to them, I watch their meetings live a lot of times, and if I don't catch them live, I go back and watch them over, just like I do the county meetings. I didn't show up specifically to that meeting in person, one, because I was sick as a dog last week, but two, I didn't want my presence there to improperly influence that board.
Right, undue command influence is what we use
Yeah.
in the military, and that's my position as well, and I think it's a very important position.
Yeah, and I think not even just that, but not to influence or even give the appearance of influence.
Correct.
The whole point of this advisory board is to be a separate set of eyes, a separate entity to give us recommendations about what they see. And then we take that plus what we're looking at, the facts of the situation, to make our decision.
Right, and I mean, my position on the westward expansion has been, I've been pretty vocal for the last over 2 years, so I did not want to have any influence whatsoever on what that board was doing and saying. But I want to be very clear that I don't think that that board should feel minimized in any way. Just because we may disagree with their decisions doesn't mean that we don't care what they have to say and think. I think it was a comment was made earlier that there was some very thoughtful discussion that came out of that board with regards to the westward expansion. So I appreciate the tough decision making that they have to make along with us oftentimes, and I appreciate the time and effort and volunteerism that they put into that and how serious they take it. But I do think it's very important that we respect each other and understand why certain decisions are made, including perhaps not coming to your meetings, even though I will tell you, I watch every single one of them. So thank you to your work, and I hope that that helps clarify things.
I think they do good works, and I actually addressed, I don't know who was there. I think he had to call Mr. Blocker, but they had to make a motion just to allow me to speak to the PLDRB. So, anything else? Nothing?
I made the comment earlier that I did watch via computer live, and I don't think it's wise for council members to attend in person, especially if two of us were to go, because that puts us in a problem that way.
Same thing with the community meetings for developments. I don't feel it appropriate to go to those, but they're not videotaped, so we can't go back and look at those. Anything else from the council? We're going to get out of here before noon. Mr. Attorneyman, you got anything for us?
Yes, sir. If I could just briefly address, I think each of y'all have been counseled not to go to those meetings. So again, I think I probably had a conversation with y'all for all the reasons that y'all stated. These advisory boards, unless you're, I think, Mayor, and you're very specific, you want to address a very specific issue, but that's different, that's separate, but y'all should not be sitting in the audience or weighing in on this. Y'all have a completely separate, different role. That role is governed by Florida Statute 163.3174. These advisory boards have a very specific role to make recommendations, and then y'all de novo make a different decision. So again, I just want to reemphasize that, and we'll do a better job also emphasizing that to the members as they come in. We appreciate these people. They're volunteering their time. They're unpaid. But I've recommended to the city manager that maybe we should do a little bit more of an orientation process so everyone understands the clear role. It would be inappropriate for the council to simply rubber stamp every decision that's sent up to y'all from advisory. The whole purpose under Florida statute is to have two different bodies distill the issues, evaluate it, reach different conclusions. So it's very common for a advisory board to make a recommendation and for the actual legislative body to evaluate and make different decisions. We see that throughout our legislative history. The Florida legislature, as an example, has different committees and make recommendations. Sometimes the body as a whole acts on those recommendations. Sometimes they do not. But just want to kind of iterate what you guys have touched on, but just emphasize that y'all's presence would be, unless it's, Mayor, I think you had a very specific thing you had to address, just a welcome and greeting. That's completely different from going there and weighing in on specific agenda items, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. Anything else?
No, sir.
No lawsuit information. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. I just want to thank staff and the council today for discussion. You know, tough topics, require a lot of tough conversation. So I appreciate everybody's efforts, the work in and out from both sides of the equation. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. And just one last follow-up for the press, for people reporting on city council and millage rates. We set the max millage. We didn't set the millage rate, and we have not increased taxes. That should be the line. I don't care for people speculating, and people are online and they'll say what they want, but be as accurate and concise as possible.
Don't worry, you'll see a Facebook post, Mr. Mayor.
I'll get some hate just for that.
It's already out. Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, guys.